Welcome to Girl Dad, the podcast, the essential podcast for fathers navigating the complex but rewarding journey of raising daughters. I'm your host, Madeline Anderson, and I'm thrilled to bring you honest conversations with dads and daughters, sharing heartfelt stories, actionable advice, and real daughter perspectives that will help you be the best girl dad you can be. Hello, and welcome back to Girl Dad, the podcast. I am your host, Madeline Anderson, and today we are doing a deep dive episode on how to teach your daughter a growth mindset. So for today's conversation, I think of this as an answer to a question that a lot of dads ask me. And that question is, how can I help my daughter build resilience? I think that the answer really comes down to developing a growth mindset. So today we'll talk all about what that is and why it's important. And then we'll go through some real life examples on how you can help your daughter learn a growth mindset. Sound good? All right, let's dive into it. So, to start it off, let's talk about what a growth mindset is. Really, at the end of the day, a growth mindset is all about this belief in yourself that you can grow, you can flourish, you can blossom, you can alter your skill level based on trying different things, experiences, and learning from mistakes. So, a growth mindset might say that your brain is a muscle and you can challenge it, you can learn new things, you can grow, you can become smarter, you can become more well versed in a certain subject. And on the other hand, you've got a fixed mindset, which means, I am smart, or I am good at math, or I do not read at a high level. Those are all things that realistically can be changed, but it has to start from within. You have to believe that you can change your qualities and your current status. And somebody with a fixed mindset focuses way more on the end product or result versus a growth mindset, which is really about the journey and the daily effort and growing from different challenges. So, for example, somebody with a fixed mindset might say, I am not athletic. And someone with a growth mindset might say, I have not historically been very good at this sport, but I'm going to give it a try and get better as I go. And, if that sport turns out not to be their sport, that's fine. But it's the willingness to try things and it's the willingness to fail and persevere and learn from different experiences and challenges that makes a person have a growth mindset. Somebody with a growth mindset does not mean that that person is able to do everything and they're super good at everything because they do whatever they want to do and they work towards it and they put in all the work and they're just good at it. I think it's the willingness to even try that defines the growth mindset. Everyone has their natural tendencies and natural gifts and talents. And natural weaknesses, right? So it's not like turning a blind eye to that completely, but it's knowing that you can always get better. You can always try new things. You can always challenge yourself. And it's this belief in yourself to be able to try. And on the other hand, the fixed mindset, I think that's the people who are afraid to try anything because they're afraid of failure and they're afraid of their beliefs being challenged. So that's kind of the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And again, it really just comes down to a fixed mindset kind of focuses on that end picture. And a growth mindset is really all about the full experience, the journey, learning from it, trying new things, failing, and persevering. Building that resilience muscle like we talked about. So why is this important? Why do you want your daughter to have a growth mindset? Well, last solo episode, we talked all about building your daughter's confidence. And I really think that having a growth mindset goes hand in hand with being confident and resilient. So again, any dad out there who's asked me, how can I help my daughter be more resilient? This is how. Another reason that this is important is that the world gets harder as you get older, right? Your challenges become more real, your problems and struggles are more intense, more complex. And if you have a growth mindset, especially at an early age, it helps you navigate challenging situations and helps your daughter feel confident that she can go through anything and come out okay. She can come out with learning lessons. She can come out the other side with more skills and more experience. And she knows that any situation or challenge that gets thrown at her, good or bad, she can learn from. And that's what a growth mindset really is all about. Also, this mindset is important because people that have a growth mindset see failure as a data point. So they look across the board at a situation in which they quote unquote failed, and they use that as data for the next time around. And people with fixed mindsets, on the other hand, do not like to try things that even have a potential that they might fail because they're afraid of what that means for them. So someone with a fixed mindset might try something and fail at it and then say, I'm a failure. And that's a fixed mindset, right? And on the other hand, somebody with a growth mindset might try that same thing, fail, and decide, okay, that strategy didn't work. What didn't work about it? How can I try next time? And this can all be applied to business, jobs, school, relationships, sports, lots of different things. So it's just a mindset when it comes to who they are and how they perceive themselves and their futures. Another reason that helping your daughter have a growth mindset is really positive is because it sets her up for success when it comes to constructive criticism. So at some point in your daughter's life, many times actually, she will come across constructive feedback, whether it's from a boss or a coach or an employee or a coworker or a friend. And if you have a growth mindset, you can hear these kinds of things and you can think about whether or not they're applicable. Obviously, you don't have to take everyone's advice or feedback, um, but you don't feel like it's an attack on you. And I think that's a really great gift to give your daughter because there will be lots of feedback throughout her life, and she can be really receptive to it and decide how she wants to navigate moving forward. Now, do I recommend giving your daughter constructive feedback all the time yourself? No, I would say that's probably not a good idea. I think you don't want her to feel like she's not good enough and that there's all these different things that she needs to work on. I think a growth mindset has to come from within. So she needs to feel that she is able to handle this kind of feedback because she knows she can grow. She knows she's capable of evolution and becoming stronger and becoming brighter and learning new skills. And so for her to hear this kind of feedback, it's positive because she thinks, okay, yeah, that's a good point. Let me try that next time. Or, I've never really thought about it that way, but sure, I'll give it a shot and see what comes of it. Versus feeling like it is an attack. Because if she believes something about herself to be true in a fixed mindset way, and somebody else gives her feedback that kind of contradicts that mindset, all of a sudden she's having an identity crisis and she feels an attack on her because that's not what she believes about herself. And so she might get defensive. When if she had a growth mindset and really was open to these kinds of things and knew what kind of advice she wants to take or what kind of constructive criticism she actually wants to take to heart, then she can navigate it accordingly and take it as a learning opportunity rather than a personal attack. And the last reason I think that having a growth mindset is really important for your daughter is related to social media. I think it helps protect her from comparisons that are made on social media. And if you think about it, somebody who has a growth mindset knows that they can always improve themselves, right? And so if they see a fitness influencer who has an amazing body and she's glowing and lifting heavy weights and um, just somebody that maybe she wants to look up to, she will see that girl as an inspiration rather than looking at her and feeling jealous and feeling envy and all of these terrible feelings that a lot of women feel when they compare themselves to others on social media specifically. So having a growth mindset just kind of helps your daughter have a force field. I always like that analogy, have a force field when it comes to social media because she knows she is able to be inspired by others and maybe learn something from them. Maybe she sees a video about this girl who was eating really healthy and doing all of these things like going for walks and lifting weights and challenging herself. And then she thought, okay, maybe I'll try that and we'll see how I can improve and what I can learn from this experience. So um, that is why a growth mindset is important for social media. Okay, so now that we know what a growth mindset is and why it is important, let's talk about some real life examples that you can implement as a father when it comes to helping your daughter develop a growth mindset. And I want to kick off the first example with something that is a very common theme across all the episodes, the solo deep dives, and conversations with others. And that is the fact that your daughter learns so much by observing you. And if you want her to develop a growth mindset, one of the best ways to help her is by having one yourself. So being really honest with her and open when you do quote unquote fail at something, or if you try something and it doesn't go the way that you wanted, being honest about how that went, what you learned, how you'll grow from it. Those are all really positive situations. And also just the comments that you have about yourself and what you're working towards currently, those kinds of things. The next thing is to always compliment the process, not the outcome. And we talked a lot about this in the last deep dive when it came to building your daughter's confidence. But if you highlight the things that are related to the process or the journey, then she'll realize that that's what's most important. So, I love how hard you worked on that project rather than, I'm so glad you got an A. Like really enforcing the hard work as the behavior to praise. It also helps attribute success to controllable action. So that's her effort, right? Another example would be, let's say your daughter tried out for a team and she didn't make the team. So rather than saying, don't worry, you'll do it next time, maybe you try something like, hey, that didn't go how you wanted. I'm sorry. What do you think you learned from this experience that you can help apply to the next time around? This way, she's not thinking about just the outcome of her quote unquote failing again, right? She's thinking about what she can do better for next time, how she can prepare more. And it even takes away the focus on the mistake or the outcome and puts it right back into the process. Another example would be your daughter solving a math problem. And let's say she's kind of struggling with this particular math subject. Maybe it's algebra or calculus, and you sit down next to her. You might want to say, do you want me to just do it for you? Or here, let me help you. And you just kind of work out the steps on your own rather than jump to the solution or focus on the outcome. Again, try to figure out the journey and steps that you can help her take in that part of the equation. So maybe say something like, hey, honey, I see you're stuck on this problem. What kind of steps have you taken so far? Let's figure this out together. But really, when it comes to figuring out together, you're really just helping her help herself. So you're walking her through her thought process and kind of asking the right questions rather than jumping to the solution. Another real life example is something that I absolutely love, and this is the quote unquote yet rule. This is something I've been actually working a lot on myself recently. And really, it's about catching yourself saying things that are more aligned with the fixed mindset bucket and just adding the word yet to it. So, for example, I just started playing tennis about 2 years ago. And my first experience on a tennis court with other people was when I showed up to this tennis drills workout with one of the pros. And when I came on the court, it was a bunch of people that I had never met before. And the coach said, "What level are you?" at me. And I was like, I don't know. I think I'm a 2.5. And he's like, "This is only for 3 O's plus, like, you can watch, but you can't play with us." And everyone on the court was kind of like, she can play with us. Like, it's not a big deal, just let her go in. And he kept shutting it down and saying, no, she can't play with us. She's a 2.5. And that kept ringing in my ears. Like, she's a 2.5. She can't play with us. And it was really upsetting. And so I ended up leaving that workout and Tears were filling in my eyes. I was feeling super distraught and feeling super down and hard on myself. But then I started realizing I am a 2.5, but I'll be a 3.0 soon. I'm not a 3.0 yet. And that was a key shift in my mindset. And I actually walked off the court with my shoulders high. And I was like, I know I will get there. And I will get there sooner than this guy thinks. And you know what? I'm not even going back to his class regardless of when I'm a 3.0. It really helps me remember that I am on a journey. I am a 2.5 currently, or I was a 2.5 currently. I will work until I'm a 3.0. Currently, I am a 3.0, but I should be getting bumped up to 3.5 soon. And that is because I have put in the work and I have continued to improve myself. I have worked on different skills and I have had so much fun doing it because I knew that this whole process of becoming better at tennis is going to take some challenging and uncomfortable situations, and I will continue to go through all of it. That was a long example for the yet rule, but it's this idea that you add yet to something that you have not yet achieved, but that you're working towards, rather than just calling it out. You are not that, or you will not be this. Instead of, I can't do it yet, or I don't have a strong serve. How about, I don't have a strong serve yet, knowing that you will work towards that. What if your daughter is a little bit older, she's going through some career changes, and she's thinking, I don't have a job that I like. How about, I don't have a job that I like yet? Your job's not fixed. You do not have to be in that job your entire life, right? You can take the necessary steps and learn from failures and learn from experiences and continue to find different jobs until you find something that you are passionate about. Okay, another example of how you can help your daughter achieve a growth mindset would be, let's say she gets a C on a test. Rather than focusing on that C and the outcome, maybe ask her about what kind of resources and strategies that she used to study for that test, or the process that she went about trying to solve the answers. And again, focus on that kind of process rather than the outcome. This will help her realize that it's not that she's not smart or that she does not need to be defined by that C. That is not a fixed state of being. She can learn from it and she can grow from it and she can get better and get better grades because of it. The last real life example that I think is important for your daughter to learn a growth mindset is putting her in challenging situations that she can learn and grow from. And I think this is hard for a lot of dads because naturally you might want to protect your daughters. You might want to help solve their problems. You might want to support them by helping them have an easy life. And in doing so, you're actually doing them a little bit of a disservice. So rather than just trying to solve your daughter's problems and take care of her on, across the board on everything, help her by being more of her mentor and her sounding board and her go-to for these challenging situations, and help encourage her to put herself in tough situations and sometimes do it for her. That's where teaching moments come from. I remember when I was 16 and I had just got my license, and my dad woke me up and was like, hey, I'm double booked for this meeting. Can you go attend? And I'm going to need you to talk to different landscape architects and get their business cards. It was the first experience that I had in person like this. And I had talked a lot about work to my dad and with my dad, and he's filled me in on conversation. So I wasn't completely blind to it, but I had no idea what I was doing. Let's be real. And I drove there and I showed up, and it was scary. And I was surrounded by, middle-aged men, and it was just me at 16. And I had to ask for their business cards and give them mine. And it was an incredibly important learning experience, though, for me. After I got back, my dad told me how proud he was of me. And he actually had me follow up via email with everyone that I met and got their business card. And so I learned so much from this situation, but was it uncomfortable? Oh my gosh, yeah. Like, it was so uncomfortable, but I learned so much from it, and it gave me confidence. I learned new skills, and it helped instill that growth mindset because it felt good. I went through something that was hard, and then on the other end, it was a great feeling. I had a lot of pride and confidence, and I think that you can do that for your daughter. You can put her in challenging situations and challenging conversations. You can let her listen in on a work call, and you can ask her questions about it. Challenge her in that way. It doesn't have to be, "Oh, I'm gonna drop you off in the middle of the woods. Good luck finding your way home." It's don't risk her safety by any means, but put her in situations where she needs to level up and go through hard things, and she'll learn from them. And by recapping and talking about it afterwards, about what she learned and what she might do differently, if she had any questions for you, like, those are the teaching moments that are so important and that give your daughter confidence for any situation in life. I mean, relationships, jobs, school, sports, everything. So, just to recap, today we talked about what a growth mindset is, what a fixed mindset is, what the difference is there, why a growth mindset is important for your daughter, and some real life examples that you can use when it comes to helping your daughter have a growth mindset. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And as always, I'm just an email or a DM away. I love hearing from you and how I can help. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to Girl Dad, the podcast. If you found today's conversation helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow Girl Dad. I read every review and truly take your words to heart. To close out, remember, your intentional moments make lasting legacies. See you next week.